Today we have Chauncy Wadsworth at wecan, lead at wecan. You are a graduate from Haverford College, a senior election analyst at America's Main Street Party, and you just finished your degree in political science. You're starting a fellowship at a Washington lobbying group, and congratulations to finding a job. And you work with Tom Joseph, who is a wecan role model, who is the founder of the America's Main Street Party, to get away from the two-party system. And you're also building a tech app where you can nominate members for Congress. And what you're most interested in is to save democracy, which this is a way. You're giving us an alternative way and showing us what this could look like to eliminate these massive amounts of money in the election process in America, and to stop all that power going to two parties and very few people. Chauncey, welcome and thank you for sharing your story today. So talk to us about what matters to you most.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate this. But I guess where I need to start with my story is when I was growing up, I was always very interested in politics, and I really loved to talk about it. And I could never really understand why people in my family, people around me were so reluctant to talk about it. There was especially considering like the fact that a lot of people around me have different opinions. A lot of people around me aren't quite as liberal as I am. I'm left wing, but I respect a lot of other people who aren't. And I realized over time, as I started to do more research into that sort of reluctance to talk with people, that there was a pretty massive sense of polarization within the United States, not just within my family, because obviously my family, we have a lot of liberal people like myself, but also a lot of people who are on the right side of the spectrum, but around the country. And it prevented the sort of conversations that I really loved to have. It prevented people from talking basically with people that disagreed with them. And when you can't talk with people that disagree with you, you can never really learn, because you're just basically like talking about the same points. And so that created a pretty deep interest for me as I went into college in not just what creates polarization, but how we can fix it. And I have realized that we are in a system that has basically been engineered to create the sort of polarization that we see today at all levels of government, whether you're talking about the two-party system, which obviously you mentioned Tom, he's dedicated his life to trying to get rid of that, or gerrymandering or social sorting, all these different things that contribute to this issue. And so I have basically channeled this deep interest in polarization and how we can fix it into a job, and a few jobs actually. So I'm very lucky, especially considering how terrible the job market is right now. I'm really excited to continue doing that in the future.
Yeah, amazing. And Chauncey, well done, because I think that many young people who start getting very interested in getting involved while they're at college, that's really super beneficial, because you're building your CV, you're doing something you're interested about, you learn so much. So do you want to talk to us a little bit about America's Main Street Party and what got you so excited and made you want to contribute some of your time to that?
Sure, of course. So I actually, the way I found America's Main Street Party was through an app called, well, I'm sure most people my age are familiar with this, but an app called Handshake. Yes. Tom was advertising to schools all around the Philadelphia area because he wanted this to be a project that began first and foremost in Philadelphia, because that's obviously where the nation was founded, Declaration of Independence, yada, yada, yada. And he found me. I had done an internship. It wasn't much of an internship, actually. It was more of just like a volunteer position for a group called Students for Ballot PA, which was a group of students and college students around Pennsylvania who were trying to open up Pennsylvania's closed primary system. For reference, 66% of people in my generation are independents in Pennsylvania, and that means that under their closed primary system, they're unable to vote in primaries. And as we know, primaries are a big deal in the United States since the general elections tend to be so uncompetitive. And so we had a conversation, and he told me about the idea. And it took me a while to get, honestly, just
Mm,
how novel this concept was.
yeah.
At first, I was kind of going into it, and I was like, "Yeah, it's just like another job." But then the more that I looked into it, the more I was like, "Whoa, this is a really great idea."
Mm,
And just to get down to the bare bones of it, Tom has basically found a loophole in the FEC code where if you don't spend any money at all, you're not considered a candidate legally.
mm,
And because of that, you can do all of these really cool things that you usually in a normal political party or public primary, you wouldn't be able to do without changing laws. We're able to use different kinds of voting, approval voting, ranked choice voting. For reference, plurality voting is used in the United States, and it's a big problem because it leaves people with a lot less satisfaction because they can't do as much. They can only choose one person. Obviously, the inherent in the system is that people can't spend money, so you don't have the corrupting influence of money. And the best part, in my opinion, is the fact that because the nominees, potential nominees is what we call them, are not considered candidates legally, you can go and vote in the Democratic or Republican primaries and then go and select your favorite potential nominees in our system. And when I heard about that, I was like, oh my gosh,
mm.
this is going to be a game changer. This is something that people could pick up their phone. They can take a look at all of these different potential nominees, select their favorite one, and it's a much better way to do things than just picking one person who has been basically funded by people that are going to be controlling them more so than voters.
Exactly.
And so I became very passionate about it. I got really involved in it, and even while I was studying abroad in France, I continued doing the work. It's really just something that I don't know. I've just really involved myself a lot in, and I want to thank Tom a lot because he had a pretty incredible idea and he's devoted a lot of time and resources to that. So I'm really excited to see what they do in the future. But yeah, that's really why I got into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and the exciting thing is that we live in times where tech makes it possible for all of this to be really easy for people to use, right? What would you like to see in the world that you want to be a part of?
I think I'd like to see, like what I was talking about in the beginning, I'd like to see people have the ability to have conversations, political conversations
Mm,
with people that they disagree with without it becoming a fight, with
yeah,
them realizing that they are on the same team and that even though they disagree on how to get there, at the end of the day, their goal is the prosperity of their nation.
yeah.
And I think that that's lost on a lot of people here. And I think that this system that Tom has created is particularly able to create that sort of
Mm,
vision,
yeah.
mainly because he is going to run 20 campaigns in blue districts and 20 in red districts, always even between each and each. And
Mm,
the party itself has no ideology. So there's really nothing else like that in the United States. And I think that tech is something that can be very easily used to create that sort of vision, not just within Tom's project, but within so many other projects. I mean, mobile
yeah,
voting is something that now can be done almost entirely securely. We have homomorphic encryption. We have the ability
yeah.
to do things through the blockchain. There are so many banking systems, financial systems
Mm,
that use that technology every day, and our election systems have largely lagged behind. Even though there is proof that when people are given the option to vote mobily, it increases turnout. So I totally agree with you that technology is something that can be used and should be used, not just to increase turnout, but to help people realize that the people that are voting with them are voting for the same cause as them, even if they may disagree on how to get there.
yeah. And you very kindly also got in touch with me about Ramon Perez, who I now interviewed, who does the Digital Democracy Project. And so there are people who are doing this, and they just need to scale what they already have. And you know,
Yeah,
it sounds slightly utopian, but it is a really feasible alternative to what we see now. And I think that a lot of people realize, and not just in the US, that same thing we have in the UK. We need to change these systems because they're not
yep,
working for the greater amount of people. It's working for very few people. And I always
yeah.
think, what do you think starting out in the world as, you know, someone who is deeply invested, who is deeply invested in bringing about change like yourself? You know, what do you
Mhm.
feel Are you quite hopeful? Do you see this as super exciting? What do you see the challenges to be? How do you view this kerfuffle that we have with systems that are just not working anymore in this day and age?
Well, I think the first thing I tend to be an optimist, so
Me
I think if you
too.
asked a lot of people, yeah, it's the best thing to be, especially in this world. But if you were to ask a lot of people in my generation, they would have some very pessimistic views on this. The first thing that I say always is that we know what the problem is. That's the first step in solving any
Yeah.
problem, is figuring out what the problem is. We know exactly what's going wrong, and I think the issue is that when you have fixes like what Tom has and what Ramon has created, people don't tend to get very excited about them because they don't understand the impact that these sort of institutions can have. And so I think that if we can somehow get people excited about these changes and to realize just how much of a difference they can make,
Yeah.
we could really actually change things for the better. And when you
Yeah.
change the systems so that people can have conversations, so that we work through compromise rather than battles,
Yeah.
you can get a lot more done. I mean, the American system was designed to work through compromise.
Yeah.
Washington called the Senate the senatorial saucer. You pour the milk
Yeah.
into the saucer and it cools down. And that's the whole idea behind a bicameral legislature, which
Yeah.
obviously you guys have in the UK as well.
Yeah.
But I'm very hopeful for the future because I know that really all it takes is one group of people to say, yes, this is actually something that means a lot, and we didn't realize that before, and to follow either Tom's project, Ramon's project, or any of the other ones that are out there, because there are so
Yeah.
many out
There
there
are
in the
many.
United
Yeah.
States, and I'm sure in the UK as well. All it takes is for one group of people to start following that project for things to actually change. So yes, I am very hopeful. I think that we will be able to change things for the better in the United States, and I'm excited to see the future that I'm imagining.
Yeah. So talk to us about the role that you want to play. How do you want to matter going forward?
Well, that's the big question. I mean, I'm 22 years old, so
Mm.
I've been thinking about that a lot. I obviously have now worked on the outside of the system on projects like Ramon's. Well, I haven't worked on Ramon's project, but I do the PR for it, and Tom's project. And now I'm going to be working inside the system
Yes.
as a lobbying assistant. Program assistant is the official term for the Justice and Election Integrity Department and the Friends Committee on National to start that job. I don't really know if I can give you an answer to that yet, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
just
No,
because
no. It
I
is
haven't had enough
early days.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. But if I could say one thing, I think I'd say if I am to be a part of the change, I would like to be a part of some sort of internal or external bill or project that I think makes a big change. That's the
Mm.
goal, but I don't know whether it's going to be internal or external. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
check back on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about if there is anything or anyone that has changed your life to become so
Mhm.
excited about politics and the systems that are sort of the frameworks within which we as a society live.
That is a great question. I think there are a lot of people throughout history today that have created the opinions that I have and my love of conversation.
Mm,
I think most of all, it's a difficult one because there really are so many people in the United States and around the world who have done these sorts of things and who have done a good job for their country and who are passionate about it. I think the first one I'd say would be FDR. FDR is
mm,
obviously an idol of mine. He's someone who believed fully in the mission of creating a better situation for working Americans and low income Americans.
yeah.
I would also say Robert Reich today is someone that I really
Mm,
believe in. He's someone
yeah.
who I think does a really good job in creating economic policy that attempts to help low income Americans, people who are suffering, and people who have been left behind by the economy. I'd say in terms of polarization, this is not a very well known figure, but Lee Drutman. Lee Drutman, also Tom is a big fan of his as well, is a scholar who focuses on polarization. Naomi Kleinfield is, or sorry, Kleiman is someone that I used a lot in my thesis. So those are two people, mainly a lot of scholars, just because I like to do a lot of reading. So I've read a lot of their stuff. But I would say it's not really one person in particular. There are a lot of different people who inspire me. One of my favorite things to do, or Tom will occasionally send me to these sorts of conferences around the country, where there are tons of people who are working on these sorts of polarization projects, anti-polarization projects. That's really what inspires me most. Just everyday people who are passionate like me in these things and can see the change that these projects could create. I always come back from talking with people like that with sort of a new vision, a new energy, and that I can put into these projects. And so that's what I'd say, really. There are definitely a lot of people out there, scholars and politicians that I believe in and who inspire me. But most of all, talking with people who recognize the power of getting rid of polarization like I do is really what inspires me.
Yeah. Chauncey, I love everything you say, and I'm so excited for you to show us that that is something that matters to 22-year-olds, because I think it's really important. We forget that we matter, and every one of us matter, and every one of us can affect so much change, because it's like the drop of a wave, and when you find many, then you are a wave. And all of those things are really important. And the thing that you said, that where you want to create more dialogue, because it is so nice to agree to disagree and keep talking. And this cancel culture that we have created is just awful, because anyone who disagrees with us, we seem to cancel these days, and that's just terrible. And that is so detrimental to all the systems, and our social lives, and really every aspect of our lives. I'm wondering, what other projects have you seen that you got really wildly excited about?
Right now, honestly, there's nothing incredible that I'm super excited. But one thing I guess that I am quite excited about is a new voting method that came out of the US. I think in 2014 it was invented. I found out about this at the American Democracy Summit last year. It's called star voting. This is something that has been very sparsely used so far because it's pretty new. But star voting, basically, it's you get your list of candidates and you rank them all out of 5 stars, sort of like what you do for movies, what you do every day for different sorts of things. And there's this thing called voter satisfaction efficiency. So it's simulated elections like millions of times, and it takes into account how satisfied the voters are with the results based on their selections. And star voting has the highest voter satisfaction efficiency of any of the voting methods used today. So it's a voting method that has not been polarized like ranked choice voting has in the United States, and that has an insurmountable amount of potential. And I'd say the thing that I'm most excited about. Besides that, I've been so focused on the Digital Democracy Project and America's Main Street Party that I haven't really had time to look for other
And you had to graduate, so just that little
lots
thing
to
as
do,
well.
but my thesis.
And what do you feel is your main motivator, Chauncey? What propels you forward?
You know, there are so many people in the United States today that are suffering who really don't need to be. Who are living paycheck, whether they're living out on the streets, living paycheck to paycheck, trying to support their families. There's so many people out there who are just suffering because the American government is not able to make the changes that we all, on both sides of the aisle, know need to be made. The American government is in more debt, I think, maybe than in its entire history. Yeah, we have a mounting housing crisis. We have so many different issues, climate change, that we haven't been able to deal with. And it's not because one party has been in power, one person has been in power. It's because the people in power and the people out of power are unable to agree. And so I'd say that most of all is what drives me. I am someone who has always wanted to create a better environment for the people around me, and I really would love to do that, not just for my family and my friends, but also the people that I see every day who could be living a better life through
And
my effort and the effort of many other people in Washington, D.C. and around the country. So yeah,
yeah,
I'd say that's really what motivates me, lifting people up, and hopefully I'm able to do that, or
yeah.
me and a bunch of other people
Well,
are able to do that.
you're already doing it. Yeah.
I'm
What
trying.
what do you feel success could look like? What are the successes that you sort of live for?
Um, I would really love to change just one of the crazy laws that we have in
Mm,
the United States that create polarization. So
yeah,
really any change in any law would have a massive impact. So, for instance, if we were to change our plurality voting system to ranked choice voting or approval
mm,
voting or star voting, whatever, anything else, it would immediately create a much more friendly environment for independent candidates and candidates of other parties. If
mm,
we were to create a new funding mechanism that helped third parties have some sort of a fighting chance against the big two parties, that would help a lot because we wouldn't have two parties that would be the only choices for people. If we were to create massive limits on campaign finance expenditures, which obviously we had in the McCain-Feingold Act in the
yeah,
early 2000s, but which was struck down by Citizens United in
yeah,
2010,
yeah,
that would also immediately create a lot less polarization because you'd have less money going into the system, pushing politicians to the extremes. Really, all I want to see in the next 10, 20 years is a change to one law, to
mm,
one thing. And
mm,
that would create an environment that really I don't think Americans really understand just how much change it would create. We would
yeah,
have a government that would be able to do a lot more. We would have a government that would be able to more effectively deal with its issues. That's really my goal, I'd say, is just to change one
yeah,
law, to do
yeah,
one thing, and see what that can create. Because I know
yeah.
that it would be a lot.
It would be a lot, and maybe this yo-yoing from the left to the right and the right to the left, and which is what we're a
Yeah.
bit stuck in, and it's not just in the US, but really in many places, which is
Hmm.
just not serving us because we're sort of electing a party with a person, and then they don't deliver, and then we go the other extreme, and it's just this yo-yoing that is just,
Yeah.
we've really seen that now in the last decades. It
The
doesn't work.
pendulum swing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, Chauncey, I'm wondering, what's your perfect day like? Just to understand you as a person.
My perfect day. So just literally if I wake up and I'm like, I go outside and I'm like, oh, this is a perfect day. um, I would say I'm a big outdoorsy guy. I like being around people. So I live in Evanston, right near Northwestern. So I like to go on the walking path
Mhm.
around there. I'd say my perfect day is a day where the sun is shining, the sky is blue, the trees have bloomed, the flowers are all blooming, everyone's outside, and I could honestly just be around people. People are happy, families are
Yeah,
outside.
yeah,
I'm a big fan of parks, public parks in particular. I like just days where people are outside enjoying nature, and we're all doing that together.
yeah.
That's what I'd say. I think my perfect day is basically just a nice summer day where everyone's outside.
Amazing. Amazing. So you have this fellowship in Washington coming up, and you start
Mhm.
this job. And um, are there any other plans or goals that you can sort of talk to us about?
Well, I'm jumping into the deep end here
Yeah,
with this fellowship coming up. So I think I have some lobbying experience in I lobbied for a local lobbyist in
mm,
Chicago in the state of Illinois, and I really enjoyed it. And so I think my short-term goal is to get another job in lobbying after my fellowship ends. It's an 11-month fellowship, so hopefully that'll be enough time. My long-term goal, I would say, is to be the lobbyist on one of those laws that I was talking about earlier,
yeah,
a big change that could happen in the American government that I would be a part of. Part of being a lobbyist, from what I've recognized in the past, I might be wrong about this because my experience is limited, is not being able to take credit. So I realize that I'm not going to be able to take credit that all that's going to go to politicians, but I really don't care about that.
Yeah,
I
you
just
you 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 seem to be a person who really likes to be there for the greater good, right? So you want to
yeah,
pull at the same string with other people. It always takes a village and make something happen that is greater than you.
exactly.
Where do
Yeah,
you feel
that's
that's coming from?
I think my family is very into, oh, some parts of my family, I'll say, are very into philanthropy.
Hmm.
I've always been taught not just to look out for myself, but to look out for the people around me.
Yeah,
And I think that I really don't know. I think that the people that I grew up with, my family, have been very conscious about teaching me that
yeah,
that looking out for yourself does not pay dividends for you. Acts of service
mm,
are really what make you happy. They make you feel
yeah,
good, and they make you a better person. And so I've just pretty much channeled that into my work.
mm,
I was lucky enough to always be interested in politics because
yeah,
that complies really well with that whole idea of acts of service and giving back to other people.
yeah,
Because there should be more politicians with empathy, in my
yeah.
opinion.
I agree.
And yeah, I hope everyone does.
The world would be a much better place.
Indeed, it would.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I'd say mainly it comes from my family, my grandmother in
yeah.
particular.
Amazing.
Um, yeah.
Chauncey, is there anyone you're excited about that is sort of coming up in the political world in the US that gives you hope, that you want to vote for, that you feel has what it takes to, turn around the system that's effectively detrimental to most people?
I used to be one of the only people singing his praises around my friend group. And I've been a little upset now that there are so many people who are singing his praises now because now it's not just me, but in that there's that's good that's a good thing as well because he's becoming more popular. I'd say James Tallarico.
Yeah.
I know that that's a little bit of a cliche at this point, but
No,
he's
no, I
leading.
think, come on, let's go for it. Let's
I mean,
back
he's
him.
exactly. He really is someone that seems very genuine. I think
Yeah,
honesty and
yeah,
empathy are two extremely important qualities to have in a
yeah,
politician.
yeah,
And those are the two things that I see in him.
yeah.
I think in terms of electability for the next presidential election, Wes Moore might be the best person.
Mhm.
But the person that gives me the most hope
Yeah,
for the future, maybe 10, 20 years outward, is
yeah,
absolutely James Talrico.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I always feel we underestimate these traits that he displays that are real character traits, which is being honest. Without
Yeah.
honesty and authenticity, we can't change any systems because we don't have all the facts on the table. And so
Yep.
these are such very nice human traits that make all the difference.
Yeah.
Chauncey, what if I asked you, if you had to sum up a little bit the takeaways for our listeners from your story, if you had to just sum yourself up in a couple of sentences and leave people with that, what would that be?
Well, I mean, I think it's this might apply a little more to people my age or a little younger. But
Perfect.
when you're shaping your career, I think you should think a lot more, not just about how much money you can make or how much time
Mhm.
you'll have for your friends or work-life balance. Obviously, work-life balance is important, but you should really think about how fulfilling your job is going to be. And for most people, unless you're some sort of like an egomaniac, that is going to come from acts of service, doing things for other people and trying to leave the world just a little bit better than where you came into it. And I think that as a goal for life will make people a lot happier. It will make them feel a lot more fulfilled when they retire. And obviously, I can't speak about any of that because I'm about like many years out from retiring. But from my perspective and the work that I've done so far, and in watching other people do work, that is what creates fulfillment and that's what creates happiness. Acts of service and leaving the world a little bit better than where you came into it.
Yeah. Chauncey, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being on We Can, for leading with these very important, beautiful human values and for using them to bring about change. And I'm so excited to keep watching you.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.